Good afternoon. Today is Friday, right? We're heading into the weekend. I have been listening to a few things, trying to meditate on the right things, so kind of listening a few things. And I want to share something that kind of inspired me and motivated me with you. And it begs to ask the question, do you know who you are? I'm not asking in terms of your career or whatever you have achieved, whether you have your master's, doctorate, or whatever. But who are you deep down inside? Who are you? I don't want to know if you're a wife or a mother. I want to know who you are. Or do you even know who you are in terms of you being created in the image and in the likeness of God? And therefore, you are put here on earth. You were formed before God formed you before you were actually literally born, and He placed us here in various seasons to demonstrate or to carry out that purpose that was put in us. So we have to be reminded too that we cannot allow our past. Sometimes we kind of have a tendency to do things that are not really in line with God. Sometimes we do things that are really wrong, right? But we cannot allow that, or we cannot allow the enemy to use our past, our history, or our tendencies to judge who we are, because we are created in God's likeness and in His image. We know that we are royalty. We know that we are royal priesthood, are a holy people. And when we know that we are redeemed, when we know that we are saved, when we know that we are delivered, when we know that we are blessed, when we know that we are above only, when we know that we are leaders, when we know that we are victorious, when we know that we are overcomers, we cannot now allow the enemy to come with his deceits and lies, you understand, to tarnish who we are created to be. So we have to be reminded and know our identity, that we are not based on our situation, because some of us are in some current situations, and if we are not careful, we may believe that is who we are, and it is not necessarily the case. So we have to always be reminded. Some people would say affirmations. Ensure you have your affirmations in the mornings. I am blessed, I am delivered, I will be victorious, I'm a winner. You tell yourself those, and automatically the body behaves that way, because you know that you're God's masterpiece and you're put here. So regardless of whether you're having relationship issues or marriage issues, regardless of if you're having issues raising your children, regardless if you have issues of not having children, regardless of if you have sickness, regardless of if people write you off, regardless of your boss not like you, regardless of if the community people them not like you, regardless of whatever issues you are facing, it has nothing to do with who you are. You are still created in God's image, and you are still created in God's likeness. You are still God's masterpiece. And when you begin to own that, and I can share, I struggled with self-confidence. I had self-esteem issues. So even when I was growing up as a child and a youth, young adult, I always had that I didn't fit in, that self-confidence issue. I don't fit in. So you would do things that are not really your tendencies to try to fit in. But even doing those, I still did not feel comfortable. Something just did off, something never wrong. It was when I actually gave my life to Christ. It's like He released me and say, you're a seed, go. You understand? You have been planted, go. Sometimes you go through some darkness situation. Those are your planting seasons for you to be released and say, go. You're free. You can be whoever you want. You have that purpose. How I was transformed and empowered was by the word of God. Always in the word of God. And when God kind of removed the scales from my eyes and said, listen, you're beautiful, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. I say, really, God, I lie. You understand? So those things, when you allow the word of God to transform you and allow the word of God to remind you of who you are, it is not about how much PhD you have. I don't know if you have any training after PhD. It doesn't matter what you achieve here on earth. If you don't have that connection with God and fix internally first, you're gonna be so educated and wise, but it is gonna be like foolishness in God's sight. So we have to ensure that we are planted on the word of God, to know who we are, to find our own identity, and therefore we can allow our purpose or the reason why we are put here to advance the human race. So this is just for you to just look internally. You may be battling with something like how I struggled with self-confidence and self-esteem, and it was through the transformation and the renewing of my mind by reading the Word of God that I found out that, girl, you are so blessed. You are fearfully and you are wonderfully made, and it doesn't matter what anybody says about you. That is based on what they think, but that is not what you believe or who you are. So just use the Word of God to empower you. If you are struggling with whatever issue, find that verse in the Bible that can empower you, and know that you are created in the likeness and the image of God, and therefore that perfect being, that perfect creator has created you. So it don't matter how me look physically, it has nothing to do with physically. It is who I was created to be internally, and can have that connection in God, that even in circumstances you can have that peace and contentment even when you're riding out your storm. So just listen, know who you are. You are a child of God.